We are now streaming live. Megan, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you, Jared. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. This is the fifth of 6 public outreach meetings held as part of the Binghamton Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. Tonight's meeting, as you all know, is for local youth and education organizations. The purpose of the meeting is to solicit input from these stakeholders regarding improvements or reforms to the Binghamton Police Department. For those of you I don't know, my name is Megan Brockett. I work in Mayor Rich David's office as Assistant for Neighborhood and Youth Affairs, and I'll be serving as the moderator for tonight's meeting. As a member of this collaborative steering committee, my role tonight is limited to ensuring that everyone who has registered for this meeting has an opportunity to speak. As you can all see on your screens, we're joined tonight by several members of the collaborative steering committee. That's including Mayor Rich David, Binghamton Police Chief Joe Zakuski, District Attorney Michael Korchak, and Public Defender Mike Baker, and several others. For the members of the public watching tonight from home, I want to thank you for your interests and remind you there will be one final opportunity to address the steering committee in this format on Thursday, February 18th at 6:30 p.m. That's when the collaborative will host its open public comment meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak at that meeting should email the collaborative to register at bpdcollaborative@cityofbinghamton.com. And community members can still submit written comments using that same email address. And again, that's bpdcollaborative@cityofbinghamton.com. As a reminder, the city has selected the Finn Institute for Public Safety to serve as an independent research partner in this effort. Finn is charged with collecting and tracking public input and themes during these outreach meetings and surveying stakeholders for additional input. They'll be reviewing a video copy of tonight's meeting. Tonight is about hearing directly from local youth and education organizations on the ways the police department can better serve the city's diverse community, improve public safety, implement 21st century policing strategies, strengthen relationships, and address the disparities that affect communities of color. Your input is necessary to reach these goals as outlined in Governor Cuomo's executive order. We have about 15 people signed up to participate in this meeting, and on behalf of the steering committee, I want to thank you all for taking the time to make your voice heard on this topic. Your participation tonight is important, and we appreciate you being here. In order to make sure everyone has a chance to speak, I'll make my way through our list of registered participants, turning the floor over to each of you one by one for up to 5 minutes. When your name is called, please just unmute yourself, introduce yourself, tell us which organization you're with, and whatever you would like to share as part of the record for this meeting. We want to hear your experiences, thoughts, concerns, and ideas for improving policing in our community. As a reminder, this is a listening session and not a Q&A or a panel discussion. So for each speaker, I'll start the 5-minute timer when your input begins and let you know when we reach the time limit. At that point, I'd ask you to please just wrap up your comment and we'll move on to the next speaker. After tonight's meeting, the steering committee may wish to follow up with you for additional input or questions. Again, all of this information is part of the community input record that will be included in the Finn Institute's compilation of public comment. So I will turn it over now to our list of participants. And the first speaker, our first speaker tonight is Rob Egan with the Identity Youth Center in Binghamton. So Rob, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Egan, and I use the pronouns he and him. And I run the Identity Youth Center, which is located on State Street in downtown Binghamton. And we've been serving youth in Binghamton since 2008. We are a center for youth ages 13 to 24 who identify in the LGBTQ+ family or their allies. So it's really open to most everyone. And the majority of our participants are folks who live in the city of Binghamton. Research has shown that LGBTQ youth are more likely than their straight counterparts to report negative contact with police. A number of factors can lead LGBTQ youth into interacting with police officers. Some LGBTQ youth may experience rejection after they come out to their parents or guardians about their sexuality or their gender identity. And in some cases, family members may abuse them or even force them out of their homes. As a result, youth may become homeless and then involved in committing what we're calling survival crimes, which are things like shoplifting, trespassing, or exchanging sex for basic needs. Some youth also may experience harassment at school, which can lead to feeling unsafe, isolated, and experiencing low self-esteem. As a result, they may be truant, or they may have outbursts at school, which might lead to bringing a weapon to school for safety. LGBTQ youth in foster care also have difficulty finding stable housing. They are sometimes harassed due to their sexual orientation or their gender expression, which can lead to high rates of depression, suicide, and homelessness. All of these variables can lead to LGBTQ youth having increased interactions with police officers. And through the law of probability, the more interactions can lead to the potential of more negative interactions, especially for our LGBTQ youth of color. One of the main issues that we wanted to bring up was the idea of homelessness. And I wanted to make everyone aware that in Binghamton, we don't have any youth shelters for these young people, which again, results in committing survival crimes. And that a lot of our youth do have experience with the justice system. So with that being said, we also know that there's a lot of mistrust with the police because of all of these interactions that they've had that might not only be personal interactions, but interactions that they've experienced because of the interactions family members, community members, and friends have had with the police. I love the idea that we're talking about reimagining and reinventing. And I've listened to a lot of the past conversations that have gone on over the past couple of weeks. And what I continue to hear is a lot of nostalgia about what it was like, right? Back when people grew up in the 70s or the 60s, of what Binghamton was like. And, you know, one of the songs from one of my favorite shows, Ragtime, is "You Can Never Go Back to Before." So I hope that with this process, we can look to reimagine what the future might look like for our young people in hopes that they have those same experiences and that same sense of pride and safety that a lot of people that have spoke previously have felt. And in doing so, we don't even have to look very far for some reinvention. In fact, our neighbors up north in Syracuse, the Syracuse Police Department in December of 2019, actually enacted a policy for interacting with transgender people. And the really great thing about this is that it was written with collaboration from community members and organizations with experience and expertise so that it really helped to build that trust. And I'm just going to highlight some of the things that this policy does. And it requires officers to use a person's pronouns that they use for themselves, regardless of what's written on their government ID. Officers are also directed to be respectful of a person's gender identity and refrain from using derogatory or demeaning remarks. It also provides direction in how to use pronouns in written reports, how to enact searches, interrogations, and transport of transgender individuals, and forbids stopping, questioning, or searching based on somebody's gender identity. So I think there are some places where we can take inspiration as we move forward in reimagining what community safety looks like for the residents of Binghamton. With that being said, I think as a community-based organization, we do a lot of getting input and how that really helps to develop the programs that we run. And, you know, there was a group over the summer that actually put together a great list of proposals and solicited input from hundreds of community members. And some of their proposals are really great. And I think Some of the highlights are some community advisory board. So people have a place to go to file a grievance, right? That's being reviewed by an impartial committee of community members, so that people who do have a grievance actually feel that their grievance is going to be addressed with fidelity. Also, I think the importance of community organizations and youth organizations and community centers. And one of their proposals was to have a youth center in Binghamton. And I think funding for that and funding for the youth programs that we have are critical, because it does help young people feel connected to our community. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out.
Rob, thank you so much for sharing your comment tonight. If you have that as written testimony, we're encouraging all panelists to go ahead and share that to the BPD collaborative email, so we can get it submitted as part of the record as written comment as well. Thank you again for participating and being here with us tonight. Next up on our list of speakers is Amelia LaDolce, Executive Director of Vines. Amelia?
Thank you, Megan, and thank you to the steering committee for the opportunity to provide these comments. I'm Amelia LaDolce. I'm the Executive Director of Vines. From day one, Vines has worked toward building a local food movement that's inclusive of all and grows community by connecting people through positive and empowering endeavors. We provide youth development and youth employment opportunities for City of Binghamton youth, and we serve a very diverse group of young people every year. Food justice is social justice, and it's Vine's mission to create a just and sustainable food system. These two things go hand in hand. In our country, people of color are the most severely impacted by hunger, poor food access, diet-related illness, and other problems with the food system. African-American households face hunger at 2 times the rate of white and non-Hispanic households, and have higher rates of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and heart disease than other groups, with Black children facing a 500% higher death rate from asthma compared with white children. These higher rates of food insecurity and health disparities are caused by higher rates of unemployment, low wages, housing insecurity, lower rates of home and land ownership, unequal access to quality education and healthcare, and high rates of incarceration that are faced by people of color. Ultimately, all of this connects to the legacy of systemic racism, and we need to address these issues holistically if we're going to solve any one single issue and build the future our youth deserve. If a person has high blood pressure or diabetes, medication will only treat the symptoms. If you want to reverse the disease, you have to look at the whole body as a living system and address the root causes. There's no simple answers here, but what I do know is that if we're going to find the answers, it's going to take time and a lot of community involvement. When Vines builds a new community garden, we dedicate months of time to community outreach and engagement to ensure that we're hearing from and involving as many residents as possible. While it's not always perfect, we work endlessly to do what we do better. By involving people most harmed by food insecurity in the process of designing and implementing our programs, listening and learning from their experiences, our work becomes so much more impactful. And this is a big reason why people value being a part of our program so much. I understand that we're in the middle of a pandemic and that everything we try to do these days is twice as hard to accomplish now than in regular times. However, this issue is critically important, and we encourage you to take more time for this process and learn all that you can from as many people and voices as you can, especially those who are often not given a seat at the table. So I hope this is just the beginning of this process. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Amelia, for your time and for your comment tonight. We appreciate it. I just want to remind everyone here, if you're on the list to be a speaker tonight and you have webcam capabilities, if you can go ahead and turn your webcam on, we would appreciate it. Next up on our list of speakers is Dr. Jody Dowey. Dr. Dowey, did you want an opportunity to comment tonight?
Hi, yeah. So can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I teach in the first year research immersion program at Binghamton University, which involves the first year students as they first come in. And I have a student team who had generated a sort of pre-proposal poster last semester trying to address issues important to police reform, including the school to prison pipeline and issues of folks who have mental health conditions that would predispose them to having adverse interactions during school. And so these students are very interested in developing surveys to get feedback from members of the community on how they feel about interactions inside the school systems of Binghamton with both police officers and any available mental health counselors. And so, but basically we've primarily come, I have some of my students here. I don't know if you could see one of them, Kaylee Fanfan's here, and Elisheva Izor is here. So these students have joined this meeting in part to see exactly what other community members are coming forward and presenting their perspectives, but also we're interested in being engaged with the members of these fascinating groups as they're presenting the work that they're starting. And our hope is that we would be able to develop some of these surveys to keep in touch with the perspectives of students or recent graduates about how they feel regarding any plans that are developed moving forward, and ideally to kind of track how young people are responding to any of these proposed changes in the system or changes in emphasis, et cetera. So we're just kind of coming forward, hoping to learn what other members of the community are interested in developing and hoping to be part of the process to kind of build an improvement system moving forward to kind of keep track of data as it may be generated. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Dowie, and your students for being here tonight, for your time. We have your email address. If you have that in written testimony or anything further you'd like to submit as written testimony, please feel free to send it over. And thank you again. Next up on our list, we have Damian Cornwell, who is here for Jen Lesko tonight from the Broome County Urban League. Damian?
Hi, folks. First of all, thanks so much for the city for putting this together. I'm the Director of Operations for the Broome County Urban League, and by plan, we're really more of an organization in need. We focus a lot right now on workforce development, and we're just designed to help people that need help, try to give them a hand up instead of a handout. We do retraining in the workforce, job placement, child care services, and a vast variety of other things. As far as the discussion of community policing, what we'd like to see happen is we'd like the negotiation to be more focused on involving police in community programs with kids at an earlier age. I think the issue, right, a lot of times is the communication, and that people don't have a chance to give a correct perspective that's untainted when we start with folks that are of an older age. I think that if our youth could be integrated with the police force and vice versa, it would lead for a positive outcome later on in life. Oftentimes what we notice when we're working with kids and after school programs and child care services is we find that we have a hard time with kids when they become 13, 14, 15 years old. That's when we lose them. But prior to that, it's a good opportunity to really foster a relationship of trust, care, and concern in those populations, and all populations for that matter. And I think what better opportunity than to do something like that with our law enforcement so that people have a chance to understand perspective from both parties. Those communities that are underserved and oftentimes disenfranchised, and as well as, getting the storyline from officers that risk their lives and work all day long and just want to go home to their families. So to do that, one of the things we'd like to see is, more programs that are integrated with officers. I think back in the day, once upon a time, we used to have basketball leagues. Now I know the pandemic has made things like that very hard to do, but it's something we should still think about for different activities. mixing and mashing different groups of kids with officers. And then one of the things that the Urban League can do is they do license WJOB 93.3 FM. And I reached out to DA Korchak through Facebook a while ago. He's always been really receptive to help. Maybe we could even do some messaging through the radio station, since we get such a large swath of that demographic listening to us each and every day. So that would be my story, and I'm sticking to it. I don't have the best lighting because I'm in my car right now, I'm in my truck, but I pulled over underneath the light in the parking lot to do the best I could. So I keep it short and probably leave you, okay? But if you guys have any questions, you can contact us at 723-7303. You can either talk to Jen or myself, but we have some good ideas, I think, that if implemented could make a change for the better to the community and all those involved. Fair enough?
Thank you so much, Damien. We appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight to speak with us and participate in this. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Next up on our list, we have Annie Lowe and Aisha Waddell. They're from the Broome Tioga BOCES New Visions program.
Hi, Megan. Thank you very much for inviting us. I'm looking on the screen for my student, Asia. She's a student at Binghamton High School. I teach the New Visions Law and Government Academy, and I recruit my students from 15 different districts in the area, and I'm very lucky to be able to say that this is a rich environment in which to teach students about the law and the government. Our local elected officials are very generous in opening their offices to my students, which I think is part of what we're talking about here today, part about making the youth of our community aware of leadership, aware of people in power, and helping the people in power to be aware of our youth. Pre-COVID, my students really enjoyed touring the Binghamton Police Department, touring the Broome County Correctional Facility. And I really think it's important that our professionals of tomorrow are in touch with what all of these services look like. Some things are brand new to them, and unfortunately, some of my students have had experiences with a lot of our services before. But thanks to the Public Defender's Office, the District Attorney's Office, the Mayor's Office, the County Executive, and all our local and federal level officials, my students get a really broad view of what's going on and what's available to them in our community. I do appreciate hearing from Rob Egan from the Identity Youth Center. I think that is really important. I have never had a year teaching at New Visions where I haven't had students who face issues like he was discussing. So I'd like to introduce my student, Asia, and she can tell you where she goes to school and what her career interests are.
Hi, I'm Asia. I go to Binghamton High School, and I want to be a lawyer, specifically in family court.
And we're very lucky. We are interviewing all of the candidates for family court for the 2021 election, as we did for the Judge Holly Levine, who was elected in 2020. So we have really good access to family court under normal circumstances, and also through Teams and Zoom, we're able to watch in city court. So I really think giving young people in our community access and involvement in our justice system is a really critical point in creating connections instead of divisions. So thanks very much for including us. And I'm sure if anyone has questions for a real live student from Binghamton High School, that Asia would be happy to answer any questions.
Annie and Asia, thank you so much for being here tonight and for participating in this and really for all your partnerships as part of New Visions. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next on our list, we have Tanya Barajas, an international admissions counselor at Binghamton University. Tanya?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm also joined by my husband, Oscar Hill, who is a professor at Binghamton University in the Human Development Department. So together we are points of contact for undocumented students on our campus. And so some things that I'd like to present as a goal is, addressing how our university police, but also hopefully extending out to community, works with federal agencies such as DEA, ICE, and DHS. So some of the helpful FAQs for undocumented students would include, can off-campus agencies request information about a student? Does Binghamton Police check citizenship? Which on most campuses, the answer is no, but having that information publicly available would be helpful, both on the city site and on the school site. When will Binghamton Police release information to another agency? Does Binghamton Police release information about immigration status? If a student or community member has concerns about the presence of a federal immigration official on a campus, can they call campus police to let them know, this person is here on our campus? So, answers to those questions and having them publicly available does show support for undocumented students and people within our community. For greater consideration for all people, regardless of immigration status, is information on how to interact with police. Believe it or not, this is not exclusive to just international students or even undocumented students, but sometimes that can be new for all students and younger people who are newer to the community. What to do during traffic stops on and off campus, what to do if pulled over, mainly because in particular with undocumented people, that's one of the main ways that they are detained is through traffic stops. So any information available would be a good faith effort. Some proposed best practices would be that university police in particular will not question, hold, or arrest students on the basis of immigration alone, that police will not participate in joint immigration enforcement efforts with other law enforcement officials unless required by law, that members of the Binghamton community could call Binghamton Police to report presence of or interaction with immigration officials on campus, and that those would be forwarded to our Dean of Students as is on campus, and that the university or even the community police could refer students in need of legal assistance to any available resources that there are. And just being aware of differences between judicial and administrative warrants. So for those who are here who are unfamiliar, a judicial warrant is an official court document, usually with the designation of a specific court and signed by a judge. Administrative warrants are signed by ICE agents, stating that a person is being designated for possible arrest and possible deportation proceedings. So the best practice we're recommending here is that police should not comply with administrative warrants, and should only comply with the warrants that are signed by a judge. And we have some sample documents that we could share by request. We won't share them in this meeting here. So that's kind of a basic roundup of our concerns with regards to undocumented students in particular, and maybe undocumented people within our community, and ways to provide some information that would signal the welcoming community that this is.
Thanks so much, Ms. Barajas, for your testimony and your time tonight. Oscar, did you want an opportunity to comment as well? Did you have anything to add?
I think my wife covered most of the ground that we wish to address today, but I will make one additional comment as an expert on the topic of immigration at Binghamton University in the Department of Human Development. I can also share my expertise on a broader scale in regards to how providing this information that my wife just identified will be helpful on a broader scale in regards to promoting further and supporting our broader Binghamton community and improving police efforts to secure our community. Research indicates that fear of possible deportation causes families, both those who are documented and undocumented mixed status people, to be fearful of approaching police officers that may be helpful in resolving crimes, for instance. So in essence, I think addressing many of the issues that were identified by Tanya just a moment ago will be helpful on a broader scale in regards to promoting security in our community. So thank you again for providing this opportunity to address these issues today. And we look forward to working with the police to promote better policing in our community. Thank you again.
Thanks so much, Oscar. Thanks for being here and your comment. Next up, we have Jeremy Brown with the Southern Tier Alphas. Jeremy?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Brown, the chapter president of the Southern Tier Alphas, also known as Iota Theta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And we submitted our statement via the email, and also I'll give you read it here, that our chapter, which has been a part of Endicott community since 1969, we wanted to submit a statement for the collaborative efforts on police reform. Born out of commitment to racial and social justice, we strive to eradicate injustice in all forms, including disproportionate policing of Black and brown people. For over 50 years, we have been working diligently with young boys of men of color within the area in the context of academic, personal, and social support. We applaud efforts made by the Broome County Law Enforcement Program to mitigate bias and engage in community policing with area youth, such as the Lunch with the Law program, partnering with the SUNY Broome's Men of Excellence program. Such initiatives are critical in moving toward fostering community building and reducing barriers between police and the citizens that they seek to protect and serve. Additionally, such programs provide youth with the opportunities to see law enforcement as a potential career, allowing them to give back to their communities. As an organization committed to racial and social justice, we submit this statement calling for Binghamton City Police to capitalize upon the current social political climate by engaging in reflection, truth-seeking, reckoning, and data gathering to enact strategic change and development. Such efforts are rooted in accountability rather than negative criticism. Additionally, as an organization committed to service and advocacy for our communities, we submit this statement as an invitation to collaborate on any initiatives seeking to learn more about the experiences of community members and police, particularly among young boys and men of color. We are here within the Broome County community like you to serve, providing our knowledge, skills, and passion to help you continue protecting all citizens of Broome County. The key to police reform is that there is no single key. Unlocking the doors of opportunity for positive relationships among community members and police requires taking time to get to know community members for who they are and all they are becoming. Actively listening to their experiences has the potential for creating systematic change and strategic reform. Doing so should produce more data-driven initiatives, offering police departments to assess, evaluate, and build upon what is going well with their concurrent policing strategies. So we offer ourselves, our resources, and our experiences, and look forward to collaborating with the Binghamton Police Community Department on this important and necessary work to reform and reimagine policing within our community. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for allowing us to share our statements on policing in our community.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and thank you for submitting your written comment. We received that earlier today or yesterday, so I appreciate that. We'll make sure it gets shared with the committee members. Thank you. Next up on our list is Kaylee Fanfan. Kaylee, did you want an opportunity to speak tonight? I'm not sure if you're still here on with us.
I think that Dr. G pretty much covered basically everything that we're looking to go towards with our project, with looking to go out into the community and get some type of survey out into the community to get what students are feeling about like the police presence in schools and stuff like that. But we do hope to collaborate with the Binghamton Police Department and get somewhere with this and like actually do something and make a change.
Thank you, Kaylee. Thanks for your comment and for being here tonight. Alicia Izor, are you with Dr. Dowlake's class too? Did you want a chance to comment?
Yeah, me and Kaylee are on the same team, and just kind of also agreeing with what both her and Dr. G said. I think that this is obviously a very important issue, and our team really cares about getting any type of information that we can from the community, from students, from the police department, because what we researched last semester was just about how, especially in schools, students of color and those who struggle with mental health disorders or disabilities are targeted in really serious ways, and it can really affect them. And we really want to, in any way, help improve that problem, or at least understand it better so that research can be done in the future. And yeah, we're really looking forward to learning as much as we can.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here tonight and for participating in this. We appreciate it. Okay, so we also have here with us tonight several members of our steering committee who are affiliated with local youth or education organizations. The collaborative is incredibly fortunate to have these people and their perspectives as part of this effort. So like we've been doing these other stakeholder meetings, we want to take the time tonight to introduce them and give them a chance to address this group. So first up on our list of steering committee members here is Dr. Tanya Thompson, Superintendent of the Binghamton City School District. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Megan. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to serve on the steering committee and to be directly involved in the police reform efforts. My name is Dr. Tanya Thompson, and I'm the proud superintendent of the Binghamton City School District. The positive and supportive collaboration that the district has formed with the Binghamton Police Department cannot be understated. They've worked with the district proactively to protect its students, faculty, and staff when events in the city have threatened their well-being. In instances such as shots fired near Binghamton High School, bank robbery on the East Side, investigations that have taken place as a result of social media threats, or the awareness of a sexual predator near a school, the Binghamton Police Department have immediately contacted the district so that we are in best position to respond and protect our students. We've additionally been fortunate to collaborate and realize 3 outstanding school resource officers. The presence of police in schools is a critical part of this conversation. I hear and understand those that worry that the presence of police creates a discomfort for students, particularly students of color. As a very diverse school district that strives to be welcoming and inclusive to all, our administration is very sensitive to that concern. The experience of each student is unique and valid, and I'm confident that overall having school resource officers in our buildings has made a positive impact on our school population. This has been evidenced through the experience and thoughts shared by our students in various surveys. Questions on our annual climate and culture survey, which is being issued to Binghamton students this month, will help us gather additional data that reflects their opinions and feelings. And we'll share that data and we'll use it to inform and make needed changes, any needed changes to the program. The district is extremely selective when considering individuals to serve as SROs. We specifically seek candidates who are reflective of our student body and those who can relate to our students. They are first and foremost tasked with building positive relationships with our youth, and in turn, they provide students with a positive example of a police officer and bridge the gap between the community and our local law enforcement agencies. It's our hope that by knowing and trusting our SROs, some students may consider a career in law enforcement. Being a school resource officer in the Binghamton City School District means that these officers must commit to understanding culturally and linguistically relevant behaviors. They are engaged and have access to the same professional learning offered to our faculty, which includes implicit bias training, training in the use of restorative practices, and de-escalation strategies promoted by crisis prevention and intervention. While the city's demographics show that nearly 27% of its citizens are Black or Brown, 60% or double that of our students in our school district are Black or Brown. This alone is a reason for all officers to participate in annual training on implicit bias, culturally and linguistically responsiveness, and structural racism. We need to ensure that all officers have access to this type of professional learning as an expectation from the police department and the city. I also suggest giving a voice to our youth in developing reform programs. Implementing community policing tactics that focus on building relationships, which has been suggested by many of the community members, is a great start. But its construct should be accompanied by community members sitting at the table with representative youths on either sides to determine the best course of action. Locally, we have seen the impact of small gestures, such as a school resource officer eating lunch with a student or a patrol officer playing football with children in their neighborhood that they serve. Those success stories must become more intentional, and we have to do the work to facilitate them. We additionally need alternatives to calling police when a child or parent guardian in our school building is experiencing a mental health crisis. Transporting children in a patrol car to the comprehensive psychiatric emergency program gives the message that a mental health crisis is a crime, when in fact it's a symptom of an illness. The community deserves better, and we must realize a solution that results in the maintenance of dignity. An effective organization engages in continuous improvement and reflects on both its successes and areas where it's failing. Creating transparency around those issues that exist and the solutions being explored builds trust. And this trust translates into how the community perceives its safety. It's critical that all officers are properly selected, trained, and utilized so that the community may experience the same successes other communities have had with the right reform efforts. We must seek and implement productive change through documented planning, research-based strategies, careful monitoring, and critical evaluation. We must be open to learning from what we've been deemed effective in other communities, and I implore my fellow panelists to listen closely to the community, ask questions of the data, seek understanding, and be willing to think flexibly so that true reform results from our collective efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson, for being here tonight and also for your work as part of the steering committee. It's appreciated. So thank you. Next up on our list from the steering committee is Brian Whalen. Brian's president of the Binghamton City School District Board of Education. Mr. Whalen, the floor is yours. I think you are. We have you on mute here, Mr. Whalen.
How's that better?
Much better. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, Megan, for the introduction. My name is Brian Whalen. I was born and raised and have lived in Binghamton for almost 63 years. I am the proud graduate of the Binghamton City School District, as is my wife, Barbara, and my 3 daughters. I am president of the Binghamton City School District Board of Education and have been elected to serve on the board over the past 22 years. And I retired from local defense industry after 37 years of service. I think we're at a crossroad here in our community, and I think there really needs to be an effort to pull everybody together to get to the table to discuss these issues and to come away with equitable solutions. I'd like to start off my comments tonight by first extending my appreciation and thanks to the Mayor David and his staff for orchestrating this initiative and for onboarding experienced, trained, professionals to provide guidance and expertise in data gathering, interpretation, and statistical analysis, along with providing facilitation to maintain focus on the committee's purpose and recommended results. This step demonstrates the administration and police department's transparency and commitment to examining practices, policies, and procedures and alter departmental operations to address best practices accordingly. The audience was informed that the police continues to examine operations and have adapted to different operational models, like engaging mental health professionals to assist. That's certainly a start. I am a supporter of having SROs in our 2 middle schools and our high school. And as I speak tonight, I don't speak on behalf of the board. I speak on behalf of myself as a resident of the district and as a school board member. I do support the SROs in our 2 middle schools and our high school. The benefit of building trusting relationships and providing school security for our students and staff as part of a larger social emotional support team fosters inclusivity and provides safe places for kids to learn and grow. Over the course of these meetings, I have listened to community representatives, faith leaders, business leaders, civic organizations, residents of our communities, and other groups during the meeting. Thank you all for sharing your insight and your perspective. Some speakers provided different interpretations, perspectives, and facts to some of the same incidents. Unfortunately, misinformation is divisive, counterproductive, and counterintuitive to the objective of building relationships and bringing people together. When a few groups or individuals choose to make public attacks through social media, which can cause a devastating impact on the individuals attacked and professionally and personally malign their reputation and careers, it is time to examine our values and methods and check our moral compass. As a community, we can do better. It is my hope that the committee will be able to objectively examine the issues at hand with a focus on the factual data and information available that reflects the actual performance of the Binghamton Police Department's operations. With accurate information, once a systemic deficiency is identified and root cause is addressed, only then can corrective action be taken that remedies the situation appropriately. This is an opportunity for the community to weigh in on the breadth and depth of police services and how delivery of community-level policing needs should be aligned with community needs to keep all people's constitutional rights respected while carrying out the duties to safely respond to calls for assistance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian, for your comment and for your work on the steering committee. We appreciate it. Also on the steering committee is Dave Hawley. Dave's a longtime member of the Binghamton City School Board, and he's here with us tonight.
Thank you, Megan. I don't know if you can hear me now. I think I'm off mute. I wanted to say first is also as a member of the Binghamton board, I'm speaking again on myself. I'm not in a position to speak for the board. And also I'm a vice president of the Broome-Tioga board, BOCES Board of Education. And I was very proud to see our students there from the New Visions program, which is a really a strong program that we're operating there. The main thing I wanted to talk about again was what Dr. Thompson and Brian Whalen both spoke about the importance, I think, of the resource officers in our schools. And again, I am one of the board members who supports the resource officers because of those reasons that both of those, that I won't go into a lot of that, but one of the concerns that I hear throughout a lot of these meetings has been the idea that we need to have community policing and that we need to have a police force that reflects the diversity of our community. And I think this is one of the areas where the resource officers can really help. They understand the students, they get to know them, they get to know the community. And at the same time, as I think Brian mentioned, they get to see what police officers do and maybe get an interest in becoming part of law enforcement. And we need to have that interest if we're going to build that diversity from our students of color. And again, we do have a program at BOCES, a criminal justice program there as well. So again, the other issue that I wanted to speak about briefly was the need, of course, both for the students and from the whole community for the increase in mental health support. We know we need to have some kind of a increase in that because we see more needs for mental health support throughout the district. And the other thing I'd like to say is I think the police force, we'd like to have more information. I think they're doing a lot of things that people don't know about. I was able to sit in on the session with the Mental Health Association and what they're doing and how they're working with the police force now. But I think most of the public doesn't understand this. It's a program that's good and needs to be built on. Again, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Dave, for your comment and your work on the steering committee. It's appreciated. Also on the steering committee and here with us tonight is Patrolman Mike Williams. Officer Williams is a member of the Binghamton Police Department, and he's also a family pastor at Family Life Church in Vestal. Officer Williams.
Hey, Megan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. So like you said, my name is Mike Williams, and not only am I a BPD officer for 4 years, but I'm also on staff as a pastor for my in-laws at Family Life Church in Vestal. And I just wanted to share, a couple of my perspective and, what I experienced with, BPD as 4 years. So for all my 4 years, I know that we have done annual training. And during that annual training, one of the things that I enjoyed about it is the diversity training, right? This year, we had Sergeant Sammy Davis with the Broome County Sheriff's Department who came, and he did a training on cultural diversity, and it was awesome. Something that I think not only the police department needs, but also just every workforce, every company, every individual needs this type of training on how to deal with someone who doesn't look like you. I grew up in Lansing, Michigan until I was 13, and where I lived at on the south side of Lansing, I lived around police officers who lived in the community. And I remember one time, it was in November, it was actually during Thanksgiving. I was 10 years old. Someone broke into my house on Thanksgiving. And I remember when we got home, we found out our house was broken into. What did we do? We ran over to my neighbor who was an officer, and we asked for help. And that right there just lit up my world, just to see how he responded. He was a white officer. Me and my mother came and we ran to his house, but he responded and he helped us. And I think what we need in our community is that diversity training and that ongoing communication with everyone. And I think this right here is pretty awesome, but I think it doesn't need to stop right here, nor do I think, obviously, the couple weeks that we had just does it justice. This is an ongoing communication that we need with everyone in the community so we can help build the community. And that I think also is that communication with police officers and those that's in the community. Like I said, how I grew up obviously affects how I police, so me being a young Black man, it's all about policing with respect, and one of the things that I hear or saw people wanting to, give us ideas of, what it is that we need to be doing is collecting data on individuals that we stop. Well, that's one thing that we do. We actually collect data, demographic, anytime we do a traffic stop, the officer should be collecting the data, or even a pedestrian stop. So those things that we are doing de-escalation training annually, right? That be able to talk to individuals and, like I said, police with respect. No matter what you look like, no matter, where you come from, it's about policing with respect. And that's one thing that I'm big on. And I agree with, the two individuals work for the superintendent at BPD or Binghamton High School. It's having those officers in the school too, that helps, because not only do I work there as a patrolman, but when someone like Art Williams or Armando says, hey, Mike, you want to work a Wednesday or something, I'll go in there and work. Then what happens with that is it allows me to connect with those kids and those teenagers. And then if I see them on the street, it's right there. I just have that connection with them and being able to talk with them, or if they're having a bad time, I'll be able to just to communicate. So I just think that what we're doing right now, it's good. It's a communication, but also we also need to listen to one another and see where each one's coming from, because we all bring a different perspective and a background or something. So, those are my comments. Megan, you have my email. If anyone want to reach out to me, please feel free. I am here. I work day shift now. So those are my comments. I believe in policing respect, and I have to give it up to, my guys at BPD, because they're doing an awesome job, and I'm able to talk with them and see their perspective and see how they grew up, and just to see their view on things. And all it takes, honestly, is that communication between individuals sitting down and seeing where you're coming from. And I think that will help our community. And in the Bible, like she said, I'm a pastor, so the Bible says faith without works is dead. So it's about putting into action what we're all, coming up with these ideas. And another thing is, faith works without love. One of our visions for BPD, is first, is fairness, integrity, respect, service, and trustworthy. As a police officer, when I put on my badge, I go out there, policing with respect and loving individuals, even on the job, when I come into contact with individuals, no matter what they look like, no matter who they are. So once again, I think this communication, this needs to be an ongoing thing between everyone in the community. And I'm all about empowering the youth. I'm all about just growing and just making sure that everyone is safe and enjoying where they live. I enjoy living and working for the city of Binghamton, and I'm glad to be on this committee.
Officer Williams, thank you so much for your comment tonight and also for participating in the steering committee and your work throughout this process. We appreciate it. Also on the steering committee and here with us tonight is Dr. Sharon Bryant. Dr. Bryant is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Binghamton University's Decker College. She's also a West Side resident. Dr. Bryant?
Yes, good evening. I would like to use my 5 minutes to amplify some of the community-based, some of the police reforms that have been identified by community-based organizations, which have included Binghamton University student, faculty, and staff. These forms align with the needs of Binghamton University community, especially our diverse students, faculty, and staff. For the Binghamton Police to create procedures for tracking, analyzing, and reporting social demographic trends as it relates to all vehicular and pedestrian stops by law enforcement. To devise a plan to diversify the police force to reflect the changing demographics of the city of Binghamton. To restrict the use of race as a primary factor in justifying suspicion of a suspect in a criminal investigation. To establish a community oversight board to review misconduct cases and recommend appropriate actions. And this board should include a representative from the university. To require that prior to use of force, proper de-escalation and effective communication techniques be used. To prohibit the use of chokeholds, including tactics that restrict oxygen or blood flow to the head or neck. And to require, when force is used, only the lowest level of force within the range of objectively reasonable force that is necessarily may be employed. I would like to use the rest of my time to share a personal story that highlights the importance of the police department partnering with social workers and other healthcare professionals when citizens face issues of crisis. My healthy husband in his mid-30s had a mental health crisis late one night in which he was speaking gibberish in a voice like he was possessed. And then before my eyes, he was on the floor experiencing a seizure in which he was foaming at the mouth and writhing. I thought he was dying and I called 911. To my surprise, as I was looking for an ambulance to arrive, 2 police officers showed up at my house. They spent more time questioning me about whether my husband was violent towards me than attending to his needs. By then, the episode had passed and my husband was docile and weak. And I cried as the police handcuffed my husband and put him in the back of a police car to take him to Binghamton General Hospital. This episode illustrates that police involvement was not needed. A health professional or a social worker could have attended to my husband and reassured me that he would be fine and that he could be followed up with his primary care provider the next day. Mental health crises in many regards does not require the involvement of police. And so I hope that we can partner with social workers and other health professionals to help individuals when they experience a mental health crisis. Thank you.
Dr. Bryant, thank you for your comment, for your participation tonight and also on the steering committee. It's appreciated. Also on the steering committee and here with us tonight is Chris Perez. Chris is a social worker at the Children's Home. He's also a Northside resident. Chris, did you want an opportunity to speak tonight? You might be muted, Chris, or just a mic issue maybe. No, we're having issues. Give it a couple more minutes because I know, Chris, that we've been able to hear from you before. No, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like you're muted, but we're not able to hear you. Maybe the mic isn't set up. What we can do is we obviously have the second or the next opportunity for public comment on Thursday. Chris, if you want, we can add you. We can add you to that. Okay. So we'll have Chris address the steering committee on Thursday after the public comment there. Sorry for the tech issue. Okay, I just want to thank everyone who signed up to participate tonight. As a reminder, all public input meetings are recorded and they'll be available online as part of the 2021 Binghamton Police Reform and Collaborative webpage. Like I said earlier, the final public outreach meeting is for open comment. That will take place this Thursday, February 18th at 6:30 p.m. Please, if you could, help us get the word out on that. Anyone who wishes to speak during that meeting should email the BPD Collaborative at cityofbinghamton.com to register to receive a link. As a reminder, any resident who has thoughts, questions, or input can email that same address and they can submit written comment to that address as well. So thank you again to everyone who participated tonight. We look forward to seeing